Hello once again, race fans. Welcome back to another episode of the NASCAR Show on the Grueling Truth, where legends speak. I'm Alex Gray, along here with Steve Risley. We're going to talk about the Throwback weekend at Darlington, as well as many other things to discuss. All right, let's get into the Southern 500. We now have one race left before we head into the playoffs. Sure was an interesting race. And, as I said before, Eric Jones finally got that win that I thought was coming very soon for him because of the way he was performing, and that was the case.
Well, it was only a matter of time before he was going to win. I mean, he's a talented driver. He's in probably the best equipment in the sport right now, and it was only a matter of time. Now he joins the club, so now I believe, if I'm not mistaken, all four of the JGR drivers have won a race, correct? Am I correct in that?
Yep. All four of them.
All four of them have now won. They're all four locked into the playoffs. So JGR is going to put all four cars in. And Eric Jones is a formidable competitor. He's a gunslinger who has nothing to lose. There's no reason he wouldn't go out and bust things up and get after it. He's got that kind of mentality. And he showed that at Darlington. So I think it was a great deal for him. And it's a great deal for JGR, great deal for Toyota. And it makes it more interesting. But the most important thing is it locked up another spot in the playoffs. It took away another automatic spot from the guys trying to qualify on points. And now, and we'll get into this as we evolve the show, you've got four guys now, star names, competing for two spots. And we'll talk about that. It's going to get interesting now to see what happens. And Indianapolis, we know, is not a tough track to tame. But Talladega, Darlington, I basically thought, and here's the question I have for you, Alex, is the aero package almost too good? I mean, I see a balance of where talent is kind of going away a little bit, and aero and engineering is coming into play more, kind of like F1. Where really the stars in F1, I mean, if you put Lewis Hamilton in another car, a Red Bull car, I'm not sure he'd win like he wins in a Mercedes car. I'm not sure he would. And because the engineers are so dadgum smart, the aero they do on those cars are so smart. Are we getting into that spot with NASCAR? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, first half of the season, that was a bit of a fear of mine, but I don't necessarily think so now. How many different winners we've had now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, we've had 10, actually 11 different winners, if you count Justin Haley at Daytona. Obviously the aero package is not 100% perfect, but in all honesty, this is some of the best darn racing I've seen in a few years. Honestly, 2019 Cup season has been phenomenal. Obviously, the aero package, they've tweaked it. They've worked around with it. I thought it worked much better at Bristol later on than in the spring. I don't want NASCAR to necessarily turn into Formula One because, I'm not trying to knock on Formula One. And by the way, we do have something revolving around F1 that we do need to talk about. Something unfortunate that happened. I'm sure you know what happened.
The death of the driver,
Antoine Hubert, I believe. I don't know if NASCAR is necessarily going to turn to Formula One, because I know there's those super teams, but if NASCAR was Formula One, then we would still have nothing but Penske and Gibbs winners. Obviously now we've had Hendrick guys and a Ganassi guy hop into the mix. Then, of course, you got the guys without a win who are currently locked in playoffs. You got Larson.
Okay, but you look at it and you say that we've got 9 winners, 9 different drivers that have won, right?
I believe 11 actually.
There's 11 that have won now. There's 11.
7. Let me count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah.
All right. So and they're pretty much all from the same 3 or 4 teams.
Yeah, except
you've got I mean, Gibbs has got 3 guys with 4 wins, don't they?
Yeah, Kyle Busch has 4 wins.
Kyle Busch, Hamlin, and and then you've got now you've got Hendrick with each of 3 of their drivers having a win. Elliott's got a couple of wins. You keep moving down, and it's the money teams that keep pulling it off. And guys like Matt DiBenedetto, what he did last week, there's just not the funding there to get his car over the hump. And I think they're trying to equalize the sport, but yikes, I don't know. I mean, these power teams still continue to dominate the sport. Is it because they're better drivers or because they have better equipment?
I think a lot of it is equipment and obviously the money and the amount of success they've had over the years. Yeah. Especially with Toyota and Gibbs. I just think Toyota has thrown so much money into NASCAR, and I think that's what's causing all that success because, as you can tell, Joe Gibbs has won 4, 8, 12, 13 races this season. That's half of the regular season.
Yeah. I lost my train of thought on the next question, so I'll move on to the next question. Your thoughts on Darlington? I thought it was for Darlington, which is the track too tough to tame, I thought it was a relatively mundane race. I thought, this crap they're putting down on the track to stick it down. Of course, and they had to get the race in because the hurricane was coming in, so they didn't start the race till like 9 o'clock at night, my time, or something like that. I mean, it was late. Are we just making the cars too equal, or because usually Darlington is a lot of it's the track that you just rub and bump all your way around the track and get your Darlington stripe, as we've all heard about. Everything goes on, and I just didn't see a lot of that. I just saw great racing. I mean, good clean racing, but that's not what I paid for.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was I thought it was a pretty decent race overall. I was only able to later on catch the highlights due to my work schedule. I wasn't able to catch the full race, but even right now, I'm looking back at the highlights again of the race. Overall, it was a good race, and obviously a very special occasion. It was a sold-out crowd at Darlington. Everybody driving the throwbacks. And I guess I got a question for you now since I brought that up. Which throwback car was your favorite?
The Darrell Waltrip throwback. I think it was Hamlin drove it, didn't he?
Yeah, that was Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, that was probably my favorite, just because it was the most resemblance to what I'm used to. I know everybody wants to talk about the Adam Petty car and the Victory Junction gang, and that was a great car too. So that was really special. No doubt about that. And then, but I think that the throwback, the one that when you see, you go like, I remember that car being on the track. It was Hamlin's car throwing back to Darrell Waltrip when he was running the Western Auto car. And then that was my favorite. But so be it. Everybody's going to make their own choice on that. Who did the Folgers throwback? I can't think who did the Folgers throwback.
That was Alex Bowman.
Alex Bowman did the Folgers throwback to Mark Martin. wasn't it?
I believe that was Tim Richmond.
Tim Richmond, yeah. Well, yeah, when he came out with the wig and the mustache. Yeah, there you go. Goofball.
I did like Truex's car because that was very relevant to me because that was when I first became a NASCAR fan. I was cheering for him in the Busch Series since he was driving for the Chance 2, Dale Jr.'s team. I really liked that. I also liked the Days of Thunder car that William Byron had.
There you go. That was a great car. The City Chevrolet.
Yeah.
That was right out of this movie, right there, out of the movie. That was fabulous too. You're right. Great call there. I forgot about the City Chevrolet, the green and yellow car, and that was a great car.
One that I found comical too was Logano's throwback to Kevin Harvick's Shell Pennzoil car from 2007.
Which was the yellow car?
Yeah, the Shell Pennzoil car. Especially that Harvick and Logano are still racing together. I just found that kind of comical.
And that's a great weekend for NASCAR, and I hope they never change that weekend again. I hope they leave that alone. Everybody gears up for that. It's sold out. Has there been a sellout in NASCAR this year until this time? I don't think there has.
Watkins Glen and probably the 500, Daytona 500.
We're sold out.
About it.
And then you come to Darlington, and they announce and people sit through the rain because the dadgum race will start at I think 6:30 or 7 o'clock. East Coast time, 4 o'clock my time. So I'm sitting around here waiting until 8 or 9 o'clock my time to watch the race. But they know they've got to get it in because they've got a hurricane coming in, so they can't delay the race, or they're probably never going to get the race in. So they've got to go late. And it was really good. But I thought it was a lot of hard racing. I thought Eric Jones drove well. And it was a good win for him. And was that his first win or second win? Can't remember.
That was his second career win. He won Daytona last July.
There you go. That's what I thought. Yeah. And
keep this in mind. Next year, Darlington will be a playoff race next year as well.
They're going to move it down to a playoff race?
Yep.
Are they going to keep it in the same weekend, Labor Day weekend?
I think it's probably getting moved down a couple weeks, but I think they really wanted.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, but they're still. I think the theme for next year's Throwback they're discussing is the 40s and 50s, so like the early days, which I'm finding rather interesting here. Yeah, let me check the schedule. I want to make sure I get this right here.
I'm looking at the schedule right now, too, real quick while you're doing that.
Okay, yeah. It's going to be – it's just moved down a week, September 6th. It'll be the first race of the playoffs next year.
And that's a week after Labor Day.
Correct.
That's a bummer. And maybe the Southern 500 was just always – they moved it away years ago. And then finally brought it back. And it's just a race that needs to be run on Labor Day weekend. It's static. It's one I don't think should be changed. And if you want to make it the final race, but whatever. So anything else regarding Darlington that we need to talk about? Clean race. Everybody did good. No big problems anywhere. Nobody got penalized. A huge mess. The Hendrick cars didn't run very well. It didn't seem. I think a lot of them finished, below 10th, out of 10th place. And we get the same cars up front again, so it just didn't do much. So now we go into – go ahead.
Yeah, the Xfinity race. Denny Hamlin had won this race for the second time this season. He got disqualified.
DQ,
and he got a win. Cole Custer became the winner. Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell, Dale Earnhardt Jr., the top 5. Really good run for Dale Jr. He's also talked about running the Homestead Xfinity race next year, depending on if their sponsor with Hellman's wants to pick up the option. And then the rest of the top 10, Chase Briscoe, Brandon Jones, Noah Gragson, Justin Allgaier, and Austin Cindric. So,
yeah.
Interesting turn of events. Obviously, Denny Hamlin was.
Yeah, it was good to see Little Lee in the car. I mean, it was just fun to watch him run the 8 car, and that was a throwback to his dad's first car, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah, his very first Cup start, 1975 600, I believe. So and
that was good to see, and that he's healthy enough that he can do that, and
he was having a lot of fun.
Yeah, and he enjoyed it. And, we talked about, his situation last week, getting injured or getting in the plane crash. Everybody walked away, even the Gus, the dog, which I was happy about, and the child.
Oh, yeah.
And the wife and Dale. So it was all good. And the pilots, everybody got out safe. They were lucky.
Yeah, very just very thankful they were able to everyone was all right, that aviation accidents, that's scary because you never know what's going to happen. Yeah,
and they said it'll be a year before we know what caused the accident, but I'm kind of guessing based on what they're talking about, pilot error.
I think they released something on that. Let me see.
Yeah, because the weather was perfect. I mean, it was a 20-minute flight. So, but it doesn't matter. They all walked away. Everybody walked away, and that's all that's important.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we done with Darlington? I mean, I just don't have a lot to say about it because it was kind of a average race.
Yeah, I think we're good. I think we've covered everything that needed to be covered about it.
Then let's move on to. Do you want to do trucks before we go to Indy, or what do you want to do? Because they're in the playoffs now, aren't they? Trucks are in the playoffs.
Yeah, let me check when the next truck race is. They ran Bristol. They ran Canada. I'm trying to figure out here. Friday, September 13th at Las Vegas. So they're off this week, and then trucks will be back next weekend to run.
They're in the playoffs, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
who's the favorite?
Brett Moffitt. He's won the first 2 races of the playoffs. Looking strong, on fire. He's defending truck champion. Obviously, Ross Chastain's still a huge favorite. This race is also a elimination race. This is race 3 of the round of 8. 2 drivers will be eliminated, and then we'll go to the round of 6 where they run at Talladega, Martinsville, Phoenix, and then, of course, the championship 4 at Homestead.
Okay. So we'll just keep an eye on that. Indianapolis. I grew up in Indianapolis. I started going to the Indianapolis 500 when I was 16 years old. I'm now 60. I moved out to California 2.5 years ago, so I've been there in about 3 years. This is not an easy track to drive for the NASCAR boys. This track is not set up for NASCAR. It's a soft banking. I think it's maybe 9 degrees. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. You can look it up, but I think it's about a 9-degree banking. It's built for ground effects. And these guys are coming in here, and now you've got 4 drivers coming into this race, Boyer, Johnson, Suarez, and Newman, who are competing for the last 2 spots. What are your expectations for Indianapolis? I mean, do people get out of their way and let them run, let them have at it? Or, I mean, it's one of the most prestigious wins in NASCAR because it is Indianapolis. So what do you do here? I mean, if you're Chase Elliott, you're leading, or you're Kevin Harvick in your leading and whatever. I mean, you just clear out of the way and let these guys go at it? Or what do you do?
Well, it's the final race before the playoffs. You're going to want to give it your all, especially if you're those four drivers between Boyer, Suarez, Newman, and Johnson. You're not going to want to lay back, especially, your mentality is, especially for Johnson at this point, the best thing that can happen for him is winning. So, yeah, I agree. Indianapolis, hard to pass. Of course,
it's not a track built. It's not a track built for these cars. I mean, it's just not. It's not built for these cars.
Because the way the turns are, it's very hard to pass.
You got four turns. You got four corners. You got two short chutes and two long straightaways. I think straightaways are 5/8 of a mile long, and then you've got to actually. It's not like Daytona where you have two sweeping turns with a high banking, and then some straightaway. You've got four individual turns that all act differently. And then you got a short shoot, you got to straighten the car back out, then you got to dive back in another one real quick. I mean, it's a completely different racetrack from anything these guys have seen. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, your mentality, as I said before, your mentality is to win. Indianapolis is going to be, as I said, I was about to say, it's hard to pass there because, for instance, 2 years ago in 2017, Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. on a restart were just beating and banging side by side, and they both took each other out of the race. They were the most two dominant cars. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, in your eyes, is this a one-groove track for NASCAR?
It kind of is, actually. I always felt like it was kind of a one-groove track. I've seen the race there a few times, and it always felt like that they kind of ran in a train, especially when I was there in 2009 when the car tomorrow ran there. My dad, gave the comment that it was really hard to pass. So
it's like a parade. It's like a parade.
Yeah, and of course,
kind of They move all the haulers through Speedway, Indiana, and bring them all in the night before they open up the track for practice and anything like that. And all the haulers come barreling down with all their decals and side markings and stickers on. And it starts the parade, and it seems the parade just keeps going. So Johnson has won this thing 4 times. Does he have an advantage this year?
Yeah, I think he's going to be a dark horse. And the way, Johnson ran his butt off until, once again, luck just said no to him. So, yeah, I think Johnson's a favorite. Yeah, he's won there 4 times. His buddy Jeff Gordon won there 5 times. Yeah, there's a chance, but, Johnson's going to have to run the best race he's ever had in a while. That's all I could say there. Johnson's in a lot of trouble. He's 18 points out. At this rate, he's going to have for the first time in a few weeks, he's going to have everything go right. And it's pretty much all I can say there. Yeah.
Yeah, he's basically got to win. Or he's got to hope everybody else fails. Okay. It's an interesting race. It'll be fun to watch. It's going to be hot in Indianapolis time of year, as it usually is, as I grew up there. So, of the 4 drivers left, Boyer, Johnson, Suarez, and Newman, who do you like? Who are the 2 that you like coming in?
To be honest, I think Suarez, and I'm thinking Suarez and Boyer are probably 2 most likely to get in. Suarez has been driving a lot better as of late. I think Boyer will find some way to sneak in. And I even posted this on Twitter. you know, I have all respect in the world for Jim Johnson. I know there's those keyboard, as he quoted, those keyboard warriors out there that, you know, go out, say whatever they want about Jimmy. You know, Jimmy will give it his all. I just have a bad feeling he won't get in. And I hope I'm wrong. You know, I hope I am. And obviously don't count Ryan Newman out either. That's the best I've seen in 6-car in a while. So.
Yeah, I'm liking Johnson and Newman.
Okay.
So I'm liking those two. So what does this do if Boyer doesn't make the playoffs? Is he in trouble with the seat?
I've heard talks that he will be back in the 14 next year, so he might be safe for another year. But obviously, it's going to be if he is back next year, he's certainly going to be on the hot seat because, you know, Cole Custer, he's ready to move up most likely. He's ready to move up. He's proven time and time again he's ready to move up.
I mean, Tony Stewart's known to pull the trigger. I mean, he'll pull the trigger on you. I mean, he did it to Kurt Busch. He did it to Dana Patrick. I mean, he's done it multiple times where he just said, "That's it, goodbye." And I'd hate to see that, but it's almost a time like, is it better for Clint to be in the booth rather than in the seat?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I hate to say that. I don't want to say that, but just a question. All right, so we get this race done. We fill out the final 2 spots. 14 of them are locked in. We start off in Vegas. We go to Richmond. We go to the Roval in Charlotte. We go to Dover. We go to Talladega, Kansas, Martinsville, Texas, Phoenix, and end up at Homestead this season. Who do you like of the 16 guys? Who do you like? We got Vegas as what? Is Vegas a 1.5-mile track?
Vegas is a 1.5-mile, yes.
Richmond is a short track. Charlotte's a Roval. It's a road track. Dover is a mile track, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah, Dover's a mile. Then you got Talladega, the Super Speedway.
Talladega Super Speedway, yeah. Then you got Kansas, which is a 1.5 miles. You got Martinsville, which is a short track. Texas, I believe, is a 1.5 mile track. High Bank, 1.5 mile track. Phoenix is a mile track, I believe.
Yep.
And Homestead's a 1.5 mile track. So
right.
Who's the best 1.5 miles? I mean, you got to have somebody in your mind of the 16 guys that are going to end up being in there. Let's just say the 14, because we don't know who the last 2 are going to be. Who's got the best shot here right now? Is it Harvick?
To be honest,
or is it Kyle Busch?
I'm going to base this off of who is racing the best right now, and from what I've seen in recent weeks, Denny Hamlin. You know, I think he's arguably the best driver out there who has not won a championship, and I'd say he's long overdue for one. I have somebody quoted him as the today version of Mark Martin, who has basically almost won everything except for that championship.
Right.
So I think Hamlin's a big favorite going in. I think he's going to give people a run for their money. And that number 11 FedEx Toyota, I think, is going to make a big run. And I think the way Hamlin's been driving lately, I think he's going to get to the championship floor.
And see, I think Hamlin needs clean track. I'm not sure he runs that well in traffic. So I think as long as he can keep his car up front, stay up front, and get away from everybody, I think he's fine. But I think
the other guy,
and he's not bad. I mean, he's not bad. I mean, he's won 4 races. You know, he's not doing a bad job. And I don't want to knock him. I just think that he's a front-running driver who, when he gets clean air and he's got good aero and good equipment, he gets up front and his cars go. So we'll see if he can make that happen. You know, but these tracks that we're looking at really aren't biting to that too much. Kansas City would be a good opportunity for him. Where else? Richmond is a short track. That's a struggle for everybody. Charlotte, the Roval, he's won on road courses before. Dover is a tough track. Dover runs on concrete, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the few tracks that actually just runs on concrete. Talladega, that's a disaster waiting to happen. Kansas is a mile and a half. Martinsville's a short track. Texas is just flat-out speed, where Hendrick will probably make a good showing. Phoenix is Harvick's owned Phoenix for as long as I can remember. And Homestead, again, another mile and a half track. So, interesting. It's a good setup. It's a good setup.
Yeah, I think we're going to see it really. I think we're going to see an interesting playoff. If I were to go with it's set up as best as it can be. I mean, there's enough diversity in the tracks and enough diversity in the style of driving that, you're going to have competition every weekend from different drivers because they succeed on different tracks. So it'll be interesting to see. Fun to watch. We'll see who makes the final few spots. Your thoughts on silly season? Oh, yeah. So there has been a little rumor going around, some murmurs. Obviously nothing's been confirmed, but there has been some talks over in the Richard Childress race camp that Tyler Reddick may move into Daniel Hemrick's car at the 8, and that Daniel Hemrick would get moved to possibly the 13 at Germain Racing. And some people have suggested that Ty Dillon is going to step out of racing and work at RCR under a management role. So nothing's been confirmed there. Everything should be taken with a grain of salt as always. But it's very interesting because, what does RCR do here? Tyler Reddick, he's going to be in Cup next year. Especially, he's proved that last season's championship run was not a fluke at all. He's been absolutely incredible in Xfinity this year. I think he's definitely going to be in the championship four, along with Custer and Bell. They far and away been the three best Xfinity drivers. Once again, the rumor suggests that Tyler Reddick would take over the 8 car where Daniel Hemrick is now, and that Daniel Hemrick would go to the 13 car with more RCR backing at Germain Racing, and then Ty Dillon would potentially take over in the RCR management role. And then, of course, later on, somebody may come along here after we're done recording here and go, none of that is true, none of that's going to happen, but who knows? There's been so many rumors, so many crazy discussions. It's really hard to say. Obviously we know that Eric Jones has been extended through next season at least. Christopher Bell is going to replace Matt DiBenedetto in the 95. There's been a lot of discussions where he could go. I believe Front Row Motorsports has also talked to representatives from Matt DiBenedetto and I think Corey LaJoie about taking over the 38 next season. I read that from I want to say it was Adam Stern, but I cannot confirm or deny that.
If Boyer fails, Matt DiBenedetto in the 14 car, is that a possibility?
I think a lot of fans would love to see that, and heck, I'd like to see that too.
But I like that Boyer. It's hard, yeah.
Oh, okay. I just saw this pop up. Adam Stern posted this. Okay, I was at work when this was posted. Tyler Reddick's plans for next year remain undecided. It is not yet clear where he'll land. It is unclear if RCR can afford a third Cup car, and people close to Daniel Hemrick and Ty Dillon think they'll both return, so that was right. Reddick has talked to other teams like Roush Fenway Racing. Okay, that's interesting. Let me see here. Okay,
replacing who? They say replacing who?
I don't know. Obviously, I know Roush has brought in like a ton of sponsors this year, thanks to Newman. And I'm pretty sure Newman's going to run.
They're not going to dump on Newman. They're not going to dump him.
Yeah, he's going to. I think he runs there about the next year or two, and then he calls it a career. I don't think Stenhouse is going anywhere. So maybe this is a situation where Roush is like, hey, we have the funding, we have the sponsorship, we could probably start a third car. Hard to say. It's so hard because, you know, if this was like 2006 when we had a 43-car field, this would be a little bit easier. But obviously that's not necessarily the case, and that was just 13 years ago comparing to now. So, yeah, I just wanted to bring that up real quick. I just saw that on Adam Stern's Twitter. And by the way, to people like Adam Stern and Bob Pockris, you guys are great. Thank you guys for providing us with this information for us to discuss. So, yeah, I still think, you know, Bell, Custer, and Reddick, I still think they're all going to be in Cup next year. The question is, well, we know where Bell's going, but for the other two, where are they going to go? So it's going to be interesting to see how this all nets down. Lots of rumors, lots of discussions. All of it should be taken with a grain of salt. We won't know. You know, it's not like NASCAR's silly season is a little bit more private than, you know, like the NBA or the NFL, where you have people discussing, like, you know, especially with the NBA to compare this off season. There have been so many crazy trades and moves by a lot of big stars, and, you know, there's been a lot of discussions about that. NASCAR, it's a little bit more laid back, a little bit more quiet. It's just something I found interesting that I wanted to compare there. So that's...
Well, I'm reading right now. Here are the scenarios. Clint Boyer would clinch. I'm reading this off the internet, so I'm just reading it off the internet. So everybody just laugh at me. Would clinch on with 48 points in the new winner. So he needs to score 48 points. If there is a repeat winner for a win for Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, or one out, he would clinch on points with 46 points. That's his scenario. Suarez would clinch with a win. If there's a repeat winner or a Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, William Byron, Eric Allen, Aroma, and Clint Boyer would clinch with 54 points, could clinch on points. Ryan Newman would clinch with a win. If there is a repeat winner, he would clinch with 54 points. How many points can you get in a race? I don't think you can get much more than 54 points. Jimmy Johnson would clinch with a win, could clinch on points with help. All other drivers have to clinch with a win.
Yeah.
So your top four are right there. So it's in Clint Boyer's hands to lose right now, is what it appears like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it looks like Ryan Newman has been driving the best of all of them. And like I said, this is a very difficult track to win at, Indianapolis. I mean, it's not a normal NASCAR track. So it'll be interesting to see. What about, before we wrap up, any of the, how do I say this properly? Haley Deegan, any of the females coming up, are they going to move up steps into racing? Are they making a step forward, or are they going to stay where they are and keep developing?
Yeah, they're going to stay where they are and keep developing.
Okay.
There's nothing new to report. Nothing else new to report from the silly season camp at the moment.
All right. Anything else you got to cover?
Yeah, a few things, real quick.
Go ahead. It's yours.
All right. So coming up this week is a documentary that was made by Monster Energy, energy drinks fake documentaries. It looks good. It's called Blink of an Eye. It revolves around Michael Waltrip's perspective of the 2001 Daytona 500 and the events after. So I think that's going to be a really interesting documentary. Monster Energy has it secured for like 900 theaters nationwide. I just checked. I think it's going to air in a couple theaters near me, so I definitely want to check that out. It also says that Netflix and NASCAR have reached a deal to start showing eventually this is going to happen, a new comedy series called Crew that's going to star Kevin James. Obviously, Kevin James, very funny actor. Know him very well. Of course, I believe he played Paul Blart Mall Cop. That's one of his movies.
Never saw it. Never saw it.
Yeah. And then I mentioned something that happened in the world of motorsports. The Formula 2 race this past weekend at Spa over in Belgium. Unfortunately, 22-year-old Antoine Hubert, if I pronounced that right, I hope I did. Unfortunately, there was a very horrific crash, and the young man did not make it through, and Hubert passed away after that crash. So obviously, thoughts and prayers go out to his family, his friends, and those that have been affected by his passing. And, he was a top prospect, 22 years old, very heartbreaking, but the entire motorsports community, from IndyCar to NASCAR, they have all really come together to support him and his family during such a trying time,
Well, and I think we're fortunate. It's been a long time since we lost somebody.
Yeah.
Well, it's been years since we've lost somebody, and it always sucks. It's sad. I did not see the accident. I watched the race, but they didn't show it where I was watching the race, so I did not see the accident. I don't want to see it. I don't need to see it. It's not that big a deal. I mean, it is a huge deal, but I don't need to see the wreck to validate, his passing. It doesn't matter to me. He lost his life, but he was doing something he loved, and it's not good. But I did watch the Formula One race Sunday morning, which was on at about 3:00 here.
Yeah.
So getting up early to watch it, but you move forward, you go on, and you realize generally how safe these vehicles are across the board. Because on that day I watched an IndyCar race, a Formula One race, and then a NASCAR race, and for the most part, everybody walked away without injury. Which was a great thing. Unlike Kevin Hart, his 1970 Dodge Challenger. Oh my goodness! And that happened about 10 miles from our house. So.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
But
you got a Hemi engine in the damn thing, and you don't know what you're doing with it. And there's power, and you'll break it loose real quick. I mean, so fortunately he's okay, and everybody will be fine out of that event too. So move forward.
Oh yeah, this is news to me. I didn't know that Kevin Hart was involved in an accident.
Oh no, he bought himself a 1970 Dodge Challenger, I believe it was, purple, and he was allegedly letting somebody else drive the car. Now there's conflict out here whether who was driving the car or not, but that's all up for arms. But we looked at the car, my son and I, and we know engines, and I said, Ross, that's a Hemi. He goes, yep. And I'm like, okay, that's like 700 horsepower. If it's what it was. I mean, I don't know. It looked like a Hemi, but the car was mangled. But they flipped it and fell over a cliff. And fortunately, everybody got out alive and walked away. And Kevin Hart spent some time in a hospital, which I've spent time in that same hospital. But I think he's okay. He's back home, I believe, at this point in time. And he's got to figure out how to get another challenger. So be it. But it's auto racing. Auto racing is a dangerous sport. I mean, it can happen. And to all those who don't think that auto racing is a sport are nuts. I mean, what these guys go through, they're nuts. What these guys go through on any given Sunday, any given Saturday night, the heat they endure, the work they do, maneuvering, and they're doing it at 200 miles an hour for the most part. And 2 inches away from another car with another idiot right next to him doing the same thing. It's just a very. I think they're some of the greatest athletes in the world to be able to have that kind of focus and concentration on what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, but we have friends of this show who don't feel that way.
I was about to bring up Michael. He's racing in the BC 39 right now. Over in Indy.
Good.
He started 9th, making his USAC debut. He tweeted out that his first night at Indy didn't go so great. Ran 57th out of 88 in the hot laps. Got caught up in someone else's mess in the first lap. We'll try and get it fixed for tomorrow, which is not today. Also thanking its sponsors. So we just want to wish Michael the best of luck. And
who are his sponsors? Do we know?
His sponsors are, he tagged them here, Cards to Plaques, NASCAR Load Teams, Simpson Race Products, Rakowski Small Engine Repair, I hope I said that right, and Saddles and Service. Those are his sponsors.
So is he running at IRP or at the fairgrounds?
This is a dirt track that they set up on the infield of Turn 3, I believe, of Indianapolis.
Okay, so he's running it in. That's right. He said he was running it in. Yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah. So
that's cool.
Is something new. Oh, yeah, it's something new they did starting last year. So, once again, best of luck to Michael. We're looking forward to having him back on. He can talk about this hopefully next week.
Yeah, look forward to hearing about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing about Indy is that they have an incredible golf course right there. There's let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there's 4 or 5 holes in the infield where you actually, and I played the course. I was a member of the men's club when I lived in Indianapolis there, and we'd go play tournaments there all the time. But it's nothing like going to Indianapolis Motor Speedway, playing golf, and hearing the cars run. And oh well, never mind. I'm going to say it.
Yeah, I know my dad's always talked about wanting to play that golf course.
It's a Pete Dye course. It's a Pete Dye design course, and I mean, just the atmosphere makes the course because you literally play 4 or 5 holes right along the track. And when we first got there, we would try and hook drivers off the practice range onto the track. And they finally got smart and raised the fencing and net so you couldn't do it anymore. But whatever. So be it. And there were no cars out there. We didn't do it when there were cars out there. But it's like kind of get it over the net and get one on the track. So whatever. Long story. All right. Anything else we need to talk about? We got Indianapolis coming up. We got a big weekend. Who are you picking?
Let's see. In terms of the Brickyard, my pick to win, I have a feeling it's going to be a usual suspect.
Yeah.
I want to make a safe bet. I'm going to say Kyle Busch.
That's a safe bet. I'm going to go with the non-car.
All right. Chase Elliott?
Chase Elliott, yeah. I'm going to go with Chase to come through and follow up on his dad, who won the third. I think he won the third Brickyard 400. No, he won the fourth.
Because it was in 2002, actually.
I'm sorry, you won it. It was six. It was a sixth one. Okay. Because there was Gordon, Earnhardt, then Jarrett. And this is off the top of my head. Who won it after that? Do you know? Do you have it on there in front of you?
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Sorry. Didn't get much sleep.
Yeah.
All right. Another pick to win, I'd say, is probably Hamlin. He came very close to winning last year until Keselowski got him on the final laps.
Yeah.
So, especially if Hamlin can lock up another win before the playoffs, that only makes it more of him being a favorite.
Yeah, and I say that because for the Hendrick cars, because they've shown great straightaway speed all season long. They've got the speed up on the Camaros for straightaway speed, and this is a straightaway racetrack. The turns are manageable. You just have to make four of them. But I think that like somebody like Chase Elliott is a steady enough driver who'll keep himself out of trouble and will not make mistakes. But you never know. You know, the wrecks can happen.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait to see how this nets out. We'll talk about the beginning of the Cup playoffs next week.
There you go. Next Wednesday, we'll be back on with the Cup playoffs. Wrap it up.
Yep. All right. Guys, thanks so much for listening in on this episode of the NASCAR Show on the Grueling Truth, where legends speak. I'm Alex Gray, along here with Steve Risley. We'll see you next time.